UFC 316 Merab Devalishvili versus Sugar Sean O'Malley is taking place this next weekend, and I'm going to be going through, breaking down some of the fights that I'm interested in at least, giving my take on them, some predictions, what I think is going to happen, if there's going to be some finishes. So let's jump right into things here. We're going to be starting off on the prelims with Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. I think that this is pretty much just a copy-paste average heavyweight fight. I mean, if you look at any guys in the top 10 that fight downwards against an average fat heavyweight, 99.9% of the time they're going to win, right? So I'm going to be going with Sergey Spivak here. I thought he was doing good against Jailton Almeida before he lost that fight in round one. I thought he was doing pretty good against him. I thought he was a decent underdog pick, but obviously Jailton Almeida is just more athletic and a better fighter than Sergey Spivak is. But I really don't buy into Waldo Cortez Acosta. I really don't buy into him. I think he's just an overweight fat heavyweight, which is literally 90% of the division right now. Got rid of Rosenstrike, by the way, even with that. So it's just, I won't go off on a tangent about that, but it just, when I see fights like this, when I know that Rosenstrike could have still been in this division, it's just fucking pisses me off. But anyway, Sergey Spivak. I'm going to say round 2 submission. I think he can get it done. I have faith in Spivak getting that done. I'm glad that this is on this card and not a main event of the fight night. Moving on, Johnny Walker versus Azamat Murzakanov. I'm going to be going with Azamat Murzakanov. I really don't trust in Johnny Walker in pretty much any sort of skill set. He's been shown to be quite chinny recently in his fights, losing to Magomed Ankalaev and then losing to Volkan Ozdemir, both by KO. The Volkan Ozdemir one being pretty brutal. This fight's had to get rebooked a few times by now, which, also kind of makes me worry about Johnny Walker as well. I just think that Azamat gets it done. I think he probably TKOs Johnny Walker pretty easily. I could see this, I could see this kind of going the same way that Ming Jingyang versus, Anthony Smith Lionheart went a couple fight nights ago. I could kind of see it being, very similar to that, where you kind of got an older guy in the division, not as old as Anthony Smith, but still a guy that's been around for a little while, kind of been to the top a few times, versus a guy that's kind of a little bit more up and coming. So I'm going to be going with Azamat Murzakanov by, I'll say first round finish. I don't think that Johnny Walker is making it out of there. I'll truly be surprised if he can actually make it out of this fight into the second or third round, or even win for that matter. He may fluke it. Johnny Walker, he's just got that funky kind of style, but I don't think that he gets it done. Moving on, we got Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. Now, I'm actually very excited for this fight. I think Bruno Silva is a good flyweight. I mean, he did get absolutely fucking styled on by Manel Kape, but at the end of the day, that is Manel Kape for you. He is a great flyweight. But I love the momentum that Joshua Van has behind him right now. I think he's such an entertaining young flyweight that has a great future in the division. Looking at the odds here, I think that this is kind of insane. Like, I understand that Bruno Silva is coming off of a TKO loss. Manel Kape did kind of hit his flow state on him, but I mean, I would probably if I was odds makers, I'd probably put Joshua Van at like a -200. If you haven't guessed already, I'm going with Joshua Van by round 3 decision here. But I think these odds are kind of ridiculous. I don't think Joshua Van will get the finish in this fight. But at the same time, don't count out Bruno Silva. That might be a decent underdog pick, if I'm being honest with you. It might be a kind of a casual take on my part, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But honestly, not a bad underdog pick going with Bruno Silva here. But I do think that Joshua Van will get it done. I think he's got the better striking. I think in the striking department, the output department, even if you're just looking at his takedown defense against Raid Saitsura, right? I think he pretty much outclasses Bruno Silva in all departments, but I won't count him out, right? Could be a good underdog pick, but we're gonna go with Joshua Van here. Moving up the card to the main card here now, Kevin Holland versus Vicente Luque. Now, the thing is with Kevin Holland, I really don't trust his ability on anything, really. I do like that this is a welterweight for him. I think that he performs a lot better at welterweight than middleweight, and I really hope he decides to stick to this division. I don't really understand why he's getting this jump up in the rankings. I mean, he's what, 1-5 in his last 6 fights, I think. Like he was, if he had lost that fight against Gunnar Nelson, he probably would have been cut from the UFC. So the fact that he's kind of, getting this shot up the rankings is a little bit surprising, but he does bring that name value, and the UFC does pay him quite a bit for, what he's actually worth. So it makes sense putting him as the opener on the card. He does have his own fan base and does draw out some names. But I'll be going with Vicente Luque on this one. I'm going with the underdog pick here. I really don't trust Kevin Holland. I like how Vicente Luque got that the win against Themba Gorimbo earlier in the year. I really, really like that by him. And I know he's kind of been on a little bit more of a downward spiral recently. I know he's taken a few losses, but at the same time, so is Kevin Holland, right? So I'm going to be going by Vicente Luque. I think he's going to win this fight against Kevin Holland. I mean, Kevin Holland, there's always a chance for him to catch someone on the feet, to potentially outclass them. But in this fight, I don't really see that happening here. So I'm going to be going with Vicente Luque. I'm going to say by decision. I'll say, maybe kind of a tighter 29-28 decision here. Yeah, it kind of surprises me how much of a underdog, or how much of a favorite that Kevin Holland is. But I really just don't have faith in him. I don't think he takes this sport this seriously, and I kind of find him fucking annoying. So I'd love to see him lose. Moving on, Mario Batista versus Patchy Mix. I don't even have the fucking image loaded here, by the way. Like, multi-billion-dollar company, and doesn't even have the photo on here for him. I'm going to be going with Patchy Mix here. I know that this is his first fight in the UFC, but with the fights that I've seen from him from the PFL, I really, really like what he's seen. And more importantly, I just really want Mario Batista to lose. I really don't want Mario Batista to win this fight, especially after what he just did to Jose Aldo last year. That was absolutely brutal at UFC. Oh, God, that would have been what? UFC 307, I think it was? The Roundtree versus Pereira card. Hasn't fought since then. Was originally supposed to face Marlon Chito Vera in this fight, but, had to pull out, and they put in Patchy Mix. So I know it is a little bit more short notice for Patchy Mix, but I like that he's getting this opportunity in the top 10. Sometimes when you have guys coming over from the PFL or Bellator or any of those other organizations, like, Patricio Pitbull versus Yair Rodriguez, I think, giving a guy a top 5 guy right off the bat's a little ridiculous, but I like this fight. I like that, he's getting a crack at number 10 in the rankings, Mario Batista. I like that Mario Batista, took this fight. If he can win this, that would be a great win from him. But, with the takedown defense that I've seen from Patchy Mix in some of his previous fights, I think, because that's the thing about Mario Batista. He is very kind of takedown heavy, hold you up against the cage. Obviously, that's how he beat Jose Aldo, and he kind of outclassed him in that department. But I think that Patchy Mix could catch him in a submission with that. I think he outstyles him on the feet. And I think he gets this one done. I think he gets it done by decision. I don't think he'll finish Mario Batista, as much as I would love to see that. But yeah, I'll have to go with Patchy Mix here. I think he beats Mario Batista. Moving up the card to the feature fight, Kevin Fatsilov versus Joe Pyfer. I'm actually pretty excited for this fight. Joe Pyfer's been out for a little while. Obviously, this fight was supposed to happen on the UFC Mexico Fight Night card of Urseg versus Moreno, and then had to get moved. So I'm excited this is happening this weekend here. I'm going with Body Cam Joe Pyfer. I think he gets this one done. Obviously Kelvin Gastelum, he's been to the top before. He's had a few good performances, but I really don't trust. I just don't trust him to win this, man. Like, just fucking look at the stature of these two guys. Like 5'9" at middleweight. Like, dude. Like, this is actually ridiculous. Like, what are you doing here? And I know that Kelvin has tried fighting at welterweight before, and that was mixed. He obviously lost to Sean Brady. But, knowing where Sean Brady is in the division now, it's not as bad of a loss. Obviously Joe Pyfer lost to Jack Hermanson in that 5-round main event that they fought on. But I gotta go with Joe Pyfer on this one. I think he just has that build. He has the striking. I will say there is the chance of Kelvin Gastelum, being able to get the takedowns on him and kind of being able to outpace him a little bit here. But because at the end of the day, this is an interesting matchup, right? Like, there is definitely a route for Kelvin to win, but I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer here. I think he gets it done. I'm going to say round 1 KO. I don't think Kelvin's got it anymore. He's older. He's got lesser reach. He's just a fat middleweight. I don't believe in it. Whereas, Joe Pyfer, you got a guy on the come up, obviously wants to get a win back after the Jack Hermanson matchup that he lost. I see this guy having a good future in the division, whereas I don't see that with Kelvin. I think his time's done. I think he should honestly just kind of retire. And even just looking at the odds here, right? Joe Pyfer is a really, really big favorite. So if you're betting on this card, bet on Joe Pyfer. Moving on to the WMMA co-main event, Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena. I'm going to be going with Kayla Harrison here. I think that this is a very good lock on the card. I don't see any scenario where Juliana Pena wins this matchup. I don't see it happening. I honestly don't really care about this fight. It's cool that it's happening, and I think having Kayla Harrison as champion will be fun. It'll kind of liven up probably what is currently the worst division in the UFC. Something that I really don't see a lot of people talk about is that I don't think that Juliana Pena beat Raquel Pennington. Like, that was low-key kind of a robbery, and I feel like nobody talks about that. Bear in mind, I also was, like, when that fight was on, I was just watching Guru videos with my boys. Like, I was not watching that fight, but looking at what the media scored that fight as, and I'll just go off and trust them, right? Bear in mind, I did not watch this fight myself. It really seemed like Raquel Pennington should have won that fight. So the fact that Juliana Pena is kind of coming off this fraud title win and now going up against Kayla Harrison, who has a lot of momentum behind herself, obviously a lot of experience, roided to the gills. Just take a look at her. Like, holy shit. I don't know how she makes the weight cut in this division. I'm going with Kayla Harrison here. I could see her doing it by finish. I could see it by decision. It is 5 rounds, which, that is a lot of time. That's a lot of time for Kayla Harrison to get a finish. Massive favorite in this fight as well. And like I said, when I first started breaking this down, I just don't see, a way for Juliana Pena to win this fight. I just don't see it happening. If that happens, then I guess the moon's turned fucking blue. I don't know what to say about that. But we're going to be going with Kayla Harrison here. Moving up the card to the main event. Merab Dvalishvili. Oh, nope, don't want to do that. Don't want to click on Sugar here. Merab Dvalishvili versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Now, first of all, I understand why this fight's happening. I get it, right? There's not really. By the way, O'Malley's not 5'11". There's no fucking way this guy's 5'11". This guy's 5'9". All right, absolutely ridiculous fucking height here. I see why he's getting the title rematch, because there's not really anyone else in the division for Merab to fight, and Merab wants to stay active, so fair play to him. But I think that Merab absolutely cooked O'Malley in the first fight. Now, I understand that, Sean could have gotten the 5th, arguably got the 5th. And I know that there were some people making the argument that he could have gotten the 1st and 3rd. I don't think he did. I think that was a lot of cope, if I'm being honest with you. Especially looking ahead, if you look at what happened to Merab after their fight versus Sean after their fight. Obviously, Sean hasn't fought since then. He's taken a lot of time off. He's been training. He's taking a break from social media, trying to reinvent himself. Whereas Merab went out and beat Umar Nurmagomedov. Sorry, I don't know why I just stuttered there. He beat Umar, is what I'm trying to say. In very impressive fashion, by the way. It was a 48-47 decision, but I think that was pretty much the hardest fight that Merab will have in this division. I think that Umar was really the only guy that could have beaten Merab. And he won, as a sizable underdog as well. So I think, Merab now has that experience as being a champion, has that one title defense under his belt. And has been quoted in saying that in that first fight, he did not, well, obviously, I don't believe this is true, but saying that he didn't go as easy on Sean, which in a way I can kind of see, like him kissing his back and everything like that during the fight. But I think that this is going to be an even more dominant performance by Merab than that first fight was. I think that Merab might 50-45, if not 50-43 Sean in this matchup. And, don't get me wrong, there's always the chance that O'Malley catches him, right? Merab recently has seemed to have a good chin. Earlier in his career, his chin was kind of questionable in some ways. But recently, on this massive win streak that Merab's gone on, has proven to have a very, very good chin. So I don't see a world where Merab gets knocked out. I just don't see it happening. I think that Merab will absolutely dominate this fight. And I think after he wins this fight, I think he kind of cements himself as the bantamweight GOAT. I know right now I personally believe that he is, but there is still the argument to be made that he's not. A lot of people still believe that he isn't. But I think after he wins this fight, I think it's undeniable. I don't think you can make the argument that he isn't the bantamweight GOAT anymore. Because after this fight, who does he fight? Corey Sandhagen? Who, in a way, in my opinion, is kind of just a less skilled striker than Sean is. Where do you go from there? Do you do the Petr Yan rematch? He's already got a fight booked against Marcus McGee. At that point, Merab just kind of doing rematches. And I don't really see anyone, coming up the bantamweight division. Ooh, this guy's a boogeyman. This guy could beat Merab. Merab's got to watch out for this guy once he cracks in the top 10. I don't really see that. Even a guy like Patchy Mix, he was making his debut on this card. I don't think he beats Merab. He's great, and I think he beats Mario Batista, but I don't think he beats Merab. And that's the same thing with Sean. I think Sean's a great fighter. I think he's one of the best strikers in the UFC, but I don't think he beats Merab. I think Merab's cardio, his pressure, his physicality, his grind, Merab really is just kind of an anomaly in the sense of it doesn't make any sense how he wins his fights. If you looked at his skill set on paper, you'd think that this guy would ever be champion, but he absolutely dominates. And like I said, I don't see Sean doing better in this fight than he did in the first. I think he's going to do worse. The question is, what do you do with Sean after that? Where does he go from there? Losing back-to-back title fights, he has to fight down. They could always just give him the Adesanya treatment. Oh, look, he won against a contender. Let's give him another title fight. Because obviously the UFC wants Sean to be a big star for some reason. I don't really understand it myself. But I guess he just kind of appealed to the younger generation. But Merab, man, fuck, he's just so dominant. He's so good. He even just looking at the frame of both these guys, 5'6", 5'11", I don't see Sean stuffing the takedowns. This isn't a JDM versus Bilal situation where, Sean's just going to get up and he's going to nail him on the feet. He's going to beat him up on there. He's going to body shot. No, it's not going to happen here. Sean relies on being able to catch his opponents, on being able to put him down. That's how he beat Aljamain Sterling, right? I just don't see that happening this fight. I don't. I really, really don't. I will be surprised if Sean wins this fight. I'll genuinely be shocked. You'll see my surprise reaction to that if that ends up happening. So we're going to be going with Merab. I'm going to say Merab, round 5 decision. I'm going to say 50-45. Maybe there's one round that a judge scores 50, 10-8. Just him laying on Sean the full round and maybe getting some good ground and pound in. But that's what we're going with here. And that's a card. We didn't cover all the fights, but I think we covered the important ones. So let me know what you guys think. I want to hear your guys' opinions. Do you agree with what I've said? Do you disagree with what I've said? What do you think of this card? I'm personally very excited for it. I think it'll be a great card to watch. I'll try and upload some of my reaction to it as well. And yeah, if you guys have any feedback for the video, let me know. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.